Hey y'all, so let's talk about abdominal separation. Diastasis recti, diastasis recti, really don't care, potato, potato. Abbreviate it to a DR. So I just did a video with a loaf of bread because apparently that's where I found my inspiration. And I realized after doing that video that I was gonna have to do like a part one in order for that to exactly make sense. Because unless you know what it is, then you wouldn't have known the purpose of the second video. So anyway, abdominal separation is essentially where the inside, like it has grown at such a fast rate that the body hasn't been able to adapt as well as it would like to. So what ends up happening, we see this a lot with pregnancy, but it's not entirely pregnancy. So ladies, like you might find that after pregnancy, like, oh, I can't get my abdomen back. I constantly look like I'm pregnant. And it might be because you have this muscle that has a giant hole in it and it doesn't function really well. Or especially like if you had a C-section, then like the C-section scar might still be painful. And that's something that you can go see a therapist to have it fixed, to have it worked on, right? And make it better. It's not fun, right? But it works. And then that way it's no longer an issue and you can do all the exercises and do all the activities and not experience low back pain because of something from having a baby, right? Okay, anyway, so abdominal separation, or DR, is essentially where that tissue has expanded, and it just, she gave up, okay? So typically that's gonna happen here, right along the linea alba. Yes, I have an anatomical name and it was not on purpose. But the separation is gonna happen here. It will typically start, I touched it while it's still wet, okay. It'll typically start at the belly button and then expand either up and or down. And really that depends, like where did the baby sit more so. Sometimes people say it's a difference between a boy or a girl, like boys sit up higher, at least mine did, and girls sit lower, at least mine did. But it doesn't mean that it's that way for you. Everybody's different, okay? But what ends up happening is something like this. Oop. Okay? So where that tissue where it was supposed to be together has now created a separation. Now this can happen outside of pregnancy. If you maybe had a large amount of weight gain in a short amount of time, that can do it. Obviously, there's things like hernias that can play a part of that too, but it's usually a very different experience. But anytime that you've had big changes, this is what it is. This is what it looks like. And if you're somebody that's experiencing this, this is something that you have to treat and heal from the inside out. You cannot do crunches, sit-ups, side planks, or even regular planks for a temporary amount of time. There's even an aspect for my clients, I will limit how much hip abduction we do for a period of time until to the belly button is healed. And that is because we know that if we're looking at systems and how muscles work together in order to create movement, when you go into abduction, the hip only abducts so far before you start getting a hip hike. And if you start getting a hip hike, then you start engaging these obliques. And that's also the same reason that we don't do sit-ups. We don't do twists. We don't do, again, temporary. We don't do planking, especially side planks. So there's certain exercises that we limit for a time, and everybody's different, and it's based on like what I'm feeling and where they are on their healing journey, and then I start progressively adding in exercises that I think their body can handle. So, but for instance, you don't want to do those for a time because we want to pay attention to fiber direction. This is one of the things that kind of drives me a little nuts because people will put out like, oh, this is a great exercise for abdominal separation, but they forgot to pay attention to fiber direction. And so if you engage, so let's say, we want to be our goal, right? We've got these 2 layers of tissue that are now like this, and we're trying to teach them to thread together. We've really got to do this from the inside out, right? But if you start doing exercises that engage your obliques, the obliques fiber direction goes like this, and so then you're pulling it further apart by shortening the muscle. Anyway, just one of those things. Pet peeve of mine. Anyway, here is abdominal separation, what it looks like, and then in my bread video, of all things, I think that's it's comical, but it's pretty good. I got it like, for what it feels like, and then that way you can see if you have it yourself. Love you guys. Mwah. Bye.